Welcome to the Tiger's Den for an exclusive Wednesday interview with Dr. Weeze Love. This has been a much anticipated interview, and I'm glad for anyone and everyone that can join us today. Dr. Weeze is a very important man, and he's been busy doing a lot of good things. He's going to tell us about it in a minute. I'm going to introduce Dr. Weeze. But I'd like to just let everybody know from the onset, I see you. I'm going to acknowledge you now. But throughout the interview, what I will do is try to give as much of the time as I can to Dr. Love. We want to hear the innovative things that he's doing for our community as a whole and for people at large in this sector of our town. And perhaps it can, catch on. And doctors with his credentials can do the same. We're going to hear about of some of his struggles and his successes. And of course, you guys know I've been under the weather, so now my voice is breaking in and out. But the show must go on. As long as he's available, we're going to put forth the effort and bring you this truth that we all need to see. As you recall, when I talk about the Education Board's philosophy page, they said that we wouldn't get any doctors, any scientists, any lawyers, any nurses, any artists, that we wouldn't get people that are of letters, that can do great things, musicians. But we are a resilient people. And no matter what, it's in our DNA. And all we have to do is tap into ourselves. And he's going to give you a little bit of what he did to tap into himself. He seems to think that he's just a regular, everyday guy. And I beg to differ. I think that he's brilliant. And we have so many brilliant minds that we kind of dummy them down because we don't want to show anybody up. But when you're being your authentic self, what is in you is definitely going to come out, no matter what that is that's in you. So let me start by saying, Dr. Weeze Love, Ph.D., CEO. Dr. Weeze Love has greater than 10 years of experience in commercial operations, focusing on commercial laboratory space of Dallas, Texas. Currently serving as a hospital account executive for DiaSorin Inc., and I hope I pronounced that correctly, where he is actively selling their COVID-19 serology assay across the states of Texas and Oklahoma. Dr. Love will provide his knowledge and contacts in the local area to uncover those opportunities in the hospital and physician offices to capture their send out testing volume. Dr. Love has earned a bachelor's degree in biochemistry from Austin College in Sherman, Texas, and a doctorate in microbiology and immunology from the University of North Texas Health Science Center in Fort Worth, Texas. In 2020, he started his own clinical lab to address his community's needs regarding COVID testings / vaccinations. That was an overwhelming success. In 2022, along with his wife, Dr. Love decided to start another medical laboratory. They are calling it STAT Laboratories, which they are in the process of opening in South Dallas, Texas. Our focus will extend beyond COVID to include general health for the local communities. Dr. Wees is a man that stands on principle and the word of God and the scripture that he claims for he and his family is verily I say unto you, whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou taken up and cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that what he saith cometh to pass, he shall have it. Mark 11:23. Without any further ado, I'm going to just say salute Maria S. Salute Nathai. Salute Lazy Bone. I want to bring before you Dr. Wees Love. Welcome, Dr. Love.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm fine. What about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Oh,
Uh,
you're welcome.
Sounded
It's
amazing.
it's your story.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I had a weakness, I would say it's probably looking behind me. Most times, I'm trying to look forward.
Okay.
Um, but I feel, listening to you make that introduction, like, well, I've come a long way.
That's
Mm.
beautiful. I'm glad. Um, we're so happy to have you here. And what my goal in life is to show us as a people that no matter what the odds are against us, with perseverance, hard work, determination, whatever it is that gives you the inner to make it happen, and I call it the it factor to make it happen, then that's what you do. And what you have, most of us, if you put us on paper, we probably look awfully bad. But when you can hear yourself on paper and know that that's really who you are, that's a beautiful thing. And so for that, I'm grateful to have you here amongst us, sharing your knowledge and doing it willingly. um, I'm going to start with a question that I think was interesting to me. Hopefully, it is to the audience. And that question is, uh, what did you want to be when you were a child?
um, so I will say this. I've been on the doctor road or that path for a long time. Um, I remember, I think it was second grade, second grade, there was a state test that was administered. Um, and I missed one. And actually, I missed one in the math portion of it. Um, which really frustrates me to this day because math is my favorite or is my best subject. So, the fact that I would get out them all right but miss one out of the math, it lets me know I'm probably just rushing through it. Um, but since that point, my father always told me I was going to be a doctor. But prior to that, I had given some thought about what I was going to do. I wanted to be an astronaut at one point in time.
Okay.
Early, I mean, I'm talking about 5, 6 years old. I can remember talking about wanting to be an astronaut. Um, of course, my parents at the time thought I was my head was in the clouds with that. Little were they to know, look at all the activity going on these days. The second thing I wanted to be was a president. And I remember going to school, elementary school, and them telling me that, oh, you try to become president, they're going to shoot you. I mean, that, thinking about that now, that really seems offensive. But you're 5 and 6 and 7 years old, and this is what your teacher probably included is telling you. Um, doctor didn't seem so out of far fetched. My last name is Love. I had to capitalize on it. You know, um, but yeah, I think for the longest time I've wanted to be a doctor. And when I say that, I mean I'm probably going back to first grade, second grade. Um, You know, I had a reputation growing up, even though I was a lot of other things. I used to play a lot of football my earlier years, but even with the success that I had in that, um, people, uh, Dr. Love has been with me for a long time, well
Okay.
before I earned the degree.
Okay.
So
You were just born for Dr. Love.
yeah, I mean, you know, everybody in my family plays that Love name up. Mrs. Love, this Love, that Love. I mean, Dr. Love, that sounds good. I mean, people still don't believe me. Here I am heading towards 50. But you know, that is my name. That is what you're gonna call me. So let's move forward. I mean, that's kind of the attitude I take these days. I earned it, you know.
That is really fantastic. So let me ask you my second question. In an industry that is predominantly led by European men, what motivated you to develop a laboratory?
Yeah, that's a charge. I would just say, um, you know, maybe the fact that it was so dominated by European men. You know, so I'm kind of count these years up. Let's say for the last 10 to 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Commercial operations always, and that's not a place that you're going to find a lot of PhDs. You know, that's a sale. I'm in sales. You
Okay.
know, and I can remember when I first got into sales, a lot of my peers and whatnot questioned me. A lot of PhDs that I know questioned me. You know, I was doing very well in my research studies, but you know, I come from a very unique background. I wasn't rich growing up. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
any career goal that I had in mind, even at 5 and 6 years old, it had dollar signs attached to it. And you know, when I was going through graduate school, yeah, you got a lot of European men in here, and they're not making a lot of money. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I had conversations with them at the time where I'm sorry, man, you know, we're going back to 2008. $100,000 a year doesn't sound like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not the scale that I'm thinking on. So, whatever you're suggesting I do that's going to lead to this road must not be for me. Um, but over the last 10, 15 years here in corporate America, I haven't been given my fair shot. I'll just say that. I've always been the guy that overproduces in sales. You know, if you're in sales, you might have a sales rep. They might make account manager of the year, you know, once every 3 years, once every 5 years, you know, once
Mm-hmm.
every three if they're really good. You know, there's been some years I've almost hit it 3 years in a row, meaning that out of the entire sales team, I'm getting it every year, you know. Um, but I have seen the promotions go to guys that weren't as talented, however you want to word it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been given a million excuses. Listen, I've been put on performance enhancement plans when I led the nation. You know, and I hate to say that, but that's a very common story amongst other African. I don't like African American, amongst other blacks that I know in the industry.
Yeah, I don't use African American either. I use Asiatic, and I learned to use Asiatic because of the landmass of being the entire landmass used to be known as Asia. And so when you learn that we are the indigenous people of the land, and they give us these tags to keep us from being who we are as the resilient, brilliant people that we are. But I can relate to you exactly in that because, of course, my son is in the sales and he has done some phenomenal feats, um, closed the sale single handedly for over $1.4 million. And instead of him getting his bonus that's due, they play with the numbers and then tell you somehow you missed the mark. And it's always that way when it comes to us. Not every single person, but the majority of the time. Um,
And that's
that's what we're
unfortunate,
up against. Yeah,
but
we're up
it's
against it.
very accurate. That is very accurate. I have seen them give my money to others.
Yeah,
I close a big account, I'm gonna have growth for the next 3 to 5 years. Give it to give it to Steve over here.
yeah.
Steve almost lost it for us, but he gets the money.
He gets the money and all of the accolades.
Right, and I
They
push it
get
aside.
the crystal, trophies, and they get to go on family vacation, and it's really something. But it speaks to you though as an individual that no matter what they do, you stay focused, determined, and still come out number one every year. It doesn't matter how they do it, they can't stop that. And it may not mean nothing when you're not getting what comes with that, but it means everything to somebody who's looking up to you and
Well,
seeing what you do.
you asked me what made me want to start a lab. Honestly, that was part of the gumbo. Um, Look, I want my trophy too, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my trophy being some made up crystal. Look, I don't want none of that. I'm very focused on what my goal is. You
Okay.
know, there's a saying that I've been saying it for years, but goals are more easily achieved when they're well defined.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell you, okay, you go over here and practice jumping high. Well, what is high? If I tell you, hey, Cheryl, go over here and learn how to jump 6 feet tall. Okay, you can start breaking that down into minor steps that are achievable, and you can start
Mm-hmm.
hitting that goal. Um, for all that time I spent in corporate America, there were a lot of years where I called on labs. I've seen a lot of guys make a lot of money. And honestly, over the last decade, 10, 15 years, some of those guys that I saw making a lot of money, they weren't that bright. They weren't that big. You look at their background, they didn't have a business degree, didn't know anything about the science.
Mm.
Somebody tipped them off about an opportunity. They had the resources to jump in, and now they're out here driving the 6 series.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've seen that time and time again over the years. So when COVID came around, um, put it in the right words, my back was pushed against the wall. My whole family got affected with COVID very early on, and um, I ended up calling around and we found out that we were positive, and I found a laboratory here in Uptown, of all places. They were gonna offer to test me and my family for $500 a pop,
Mm.
and I'm
And
sitting
I
here.
thought it was free.
Listen, now this is going back early in 2020. I mean, go back to like June 2020. The outbreak really hit us in March.
Mm-hmm.
So them first 90 days, there were no COVID tests on the market. Anybody that had a COVID test, oh, listen, they could name their price, and their price that day was $500. Um, but like you mentioned, I was working at a company at the time that sold or that would eventually go on to sell these tests. These tests were $5, $10 a test,
Mm.
not 500. And I'm sitting here, my stupid self, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh yeah, let me look at the bank account and see if I have enough. How many kids I got? My wife, and then one day it's like God just spoke to me. He said, hey, you can tell when somebody's being taken advantage of. So
Mm-hmm.
as I'm sitting here hallucinating and coughing up a lung, in my heart, I knew I could do something better because it was definitely a need that the people were having. And one thing led to another. I mean, I'm glad talking about it now, but at the beginning, I sounded crazy. I mean,
I could imagine.
um, I'm sure my wife thought I was nuts. A lot of people did, but I'm very optimistic, especially when I'm competing. And why not me? I ask myself that sometimes when I'm really going for something here or trying to climb a mountain. Why not me? I've seen other people happen. It's happened to other folks. Why can't it happen to me?
Yeah, that's one of my questions. When when
Yeah,
you're going through, and if it seems like everything and everybody is against you, and the famous question you ask is why me, and then my question is that second one that you just asked, why not me?
yeah,
It has to be me because I am me, and I know what I bring to whatever the situation is. No matter what other people say, think, feel, or believe, when you know who you are and you know yourself and you live in your purpose, then why not me? It couldn't be no greater person than me to do whatever it is that I bring to the table. Um,
I think you hit that nail on the head when you made that comment of talking about operating in your purpose. Um,
yes.
Never in my adult life have I felt more in my purpose to that moment. All those years doing all those sales and closing all those $1 million accounts, all that was training me to go out here and sell a product that was generally needed by the people. and that was
Mm-hmm.
COVID at the time. It wasn't hard to find a COVID person want to take a COVID test. Um, and the attitude that I had developed over the decade, I mean, we were turning them away
Mm.
at one point. I don't know if that kind of answers your question or not, but a lot of discrimination I felt like I had experienced over the first 10 to 15 years. They were never going to make me vice president, so all right, I'm going to make myself founder then. How about that?
See that?
You know,
CEO.
yeah.
That's how it goes, though. That's what we have to come to the conclusion, and it's very hard to come to that conclusion because, again, when I speak of the General Education Board set up by Frederick T. Gates and John D. Rockefeller back in 1902, that philosophy still holds true today. They keep you happy exactly where you are. That's the purpose.
Mhm.
And a lot of us as parents, we don't realize it, but we play a big role in teaching our children to work well for others and dare not to dream to work well for self. And we do that because we didn't necessarily do that. And we were not geared to do that. So it's called pathology for me. A lot of people call it generational curses. I don't know anything about that. I can just tell you the pathology on how things has been done or how things have been done, and we continue to do them until you, as an individual, decide to break the cycle and say, I want something a little bit different and I'm just gonna go for it, whether I get it or not. Is really, um, it is the object, but if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at least I would have put forth the effort, and 9 times out of 10, I've seen when we put forth the effort, we make it happen. We
Yeah.
make it happen. Um,
It took off. I tell you what, it was me and my wife and another couple. Um, it was life changing. I'll put it that way. I mean, it took a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of work involved, but once you get a good team on your side, and all of you all are together in a combined purpose,
mm-hmm.
uh, you can deliver results. You really can.
But that's
Um,
awesome.
so I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of what got me over there. Uh, everyone in my family got COVID. My parents, my children, my wife, myself. I mean, it was that first wave of COVID was a killer. I mean, there was definitely some times that during that sickness that I wasn't sure. I mean, it lasted a good month. I'm not, I think I've had COVID twice now. The second time, it was nothing compared to the first time.
Yeah, I
So,
believe I've had it 3 times, but
yeah.
that's neither here nor there. When viruses are viruses, and I'm not no way near educated as you are in what you know. The thing I do is I do read, and reading is fundamental. Some things I comprehend, some things I comprehend not. But one thing I know about viruses and learning about the body is that they don't have names. And so when they start getting names, then we know that there's been some kind of uh, altercation, altering, whatever you want to call it, has been added to the mix. Virus is a virus, is a virus, is a virus.
Mhm.
Um, but the thing that you do is something that I think, we just don't imagine seeing scientists that looks like us.
And you're right about that. That's something I would tell you has been it's been a big hindrance to me in my development, my personal development as a doctor. Um, Throughout this entire process, I can count on one hand the number of black or doctors that I've encountered along my road, and it's unfortunate, um, especially when you go to graduate school and you're trying to get the big degree. If you really understand how intimate of a relationship you're meant to have with your mentor, which is the person you're studying under, who's teaching you how to become what this thing that you're trying to become, who helps you cross the bridge. the
Mm-hmm.
more intimate relationship you can have with that person, I mean, you want to be close with them. Um, the more information he's going to pass off to you, the more you're going to be able to learn from him through simple observation. Um, and this, I like to share this with you. This is something I've noticed when I was in graduate school. I noticed that people tend to find mentors based on their, and I'm not sure I'm going to say this right, their um, based on their geography. Okay, here's what
Okay.
I mean by that. So let's say, for example, you're an Indian student, okay, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean from India, a red
Mm-hmm.
dot. You might find yourself more comfortable with a Chinese mentor or an Indian mentor. The number those for those two populations, their numbers are high. There's not going to be any shortage of you finding a mentor of that, background.
Mm-hmm.
When you're an African American, there's no African Americans in here. I mean, if I want to sit here and kind of get into my zone and start really studying and listen to James Brown, nobody in here wants to hear that. They want
Mm-hmm.
to listen to some chicken kicking music, or I'm not trying to downplay their music, or I'm just saying they're listening to things that I'm not interested in. Their habits, their tendencies, when they want to take vacations, all of that. It's just different. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like you being away from the farm, so to speak. You're not as included as close as you could be a lot of times. You know,
Amazing that you use the terminology away from the form, so to speak, because in the philosophy page, the last line puts you back on the form with all the other animals. In the book Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, they talk about putting you back on the form with all the other animals because what they give us is animal husbandry training, the herd mentality, and so they train us like animals on the form, and we don't understand that. And that's one of the reasons why I came up with my page. I didn't come up with my page to roast people and to critique other people. I really care nothing about any of that. I like laughing at funny stuff, but I came really just to share my journey and what I learned about who we were before we were slaves. And everybody wasn't the king and the queen, and
right.
everybody wasn't the chiefess and the chief. You got to have followers, and in order for you to be an accomplished leader, you must be a accomplished follower. You got to learn how to learn. So a lot of times we miss the mark because we don't know who we are. And a lot of those people that you were speaking of that are very familiar with one another, they know who we are, but we don't know who we are. And the tolerance is very low for us with other people that know the history, and we don't know the history, and you can't even tell each other the history because we start laughing and talking about each other and think you crazy, and blah 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 blah. We stop a lot of growth that we could have, and that was the purpose of the herd mentality, is so that when master's not around, the head bull will do it, help
All
other
I can tell
generation.
you is this: um, the little bit about my family history that I know, I come from
Mm-hmm.
field people,
Mm-hmm.
so I got a little different mentality. And just sitting here thinking about some of these questions that you've already asked me. You took me to my childhood, then you took me through my career with the why would I started on lab, and now I'm talking about grad school. There's been a lot of times in my life where I've been made to be off the farm,
Mm,
and I think that this something you just said here kind of got me thinking about this. To a lot of people, that looks like a weakness.
mm-hmm.
He's not fitting in. He's not. Let me tell you something. There's one person at the top,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And all this time I've had over my lifetime that I have been forced to be away from the farm, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things you learn about that. Even this laboratory, that was not your typical sales rep doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thinking like the group. I was thinking like the individual that's away from the farm.
That's right.
So I tend to try to take the negatives and make them uh, more of a positive. And so far, it is working out for me. It is working out for me and my family. So
Yes, that's great.
um, I don't know how I got on that tangent, but um, What are some of the other questions that you had for me?
Okay, I'd like to know what were some of the obstacles you faced, but you pursued your dreams anyway? Something specific, if you can give us a situation that just was just seemed like shit. It was just hopeless, and you just wanted to give up, but you pursued your dreams anyway.
Well, so I have a wife and 3 children. Okay.
Okay.
Um, that is forefront of every decision I make. I got to keep them safe and secured and provided for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the major obstacle was it was a great cost that I took this opportunity, great personal cost. Um, that was a big decision to make. And I had to get it right in my spirit on whether or not I was going to do that or not. Um, but I think the major obstacle, the obvious one, I have never owned a laboratory before this laboratory. I
Mm-hmm.
had never owned a lab. I had been around labs. I had sold to labs. I had relationships with lab directors and managers and supervisors and technicians, and I had relationships going back over a decade. But you working and owning a thing is different from you just going in here selling. You know, um, I had interacted with these people, so I knew some of their technical concerns. I knew some of their personality types. I knew positions that were common. I knew different ways, business wise, that a lab could be set up, types of businesses to go after. I knew a lot, but um, I didn't know about a lab. I didn't. Had never owned a lab. You know, um, listen, basic things. When I talk about a leap of faith, I mean, so I told you earlier, I come from poor people. Matter of fact, you've heard about Black Wall Street in Tulsa.
Yes.
Yeah, I can trace my family back there. My father was raised in Tulsa. Um, in the aftermath. Um, but I would just say I come from a lot of people that know how to fish, to eat. They're fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I'll tell you, you don't catch a fish if you don't have a line in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very much part of something I've always heard. It's part of my belief system. Um, I have enough faith in myself that once I start pushing something forward, I'm going to find what I need along the way. Nobody walks into something like this here with all the answers. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
or there have been more people doing it. That was probably the biggest. I mean, how do I bill for these tests? Who do I bill? Who does that for me? How do I get credentialed? What paperwork has to be signed? What equipment do I need? Well, I mean, a litany of things.
Mm-hmm.
Who can I hire them? Who can I hire? What qualifications do they need? How much do I need to pay them? I mean, there's the laundry list was long. To start things off, it was actually me and this other guy in there doing testing. I mean, and I'm like I said, I'm approaching 50. So when I tell you there were some days I was there from, and it was in Grand Prairie, so it's about an hour away from me. I was there
Mm-hmm.
some mornings from 8 o'clock in the morning to there were some nights I was out there doing testing past dark. Hello, Tiger, are you there? Give her a minute, see if she's gonna log back in.
Dr. Love, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
My computer just went completely out.
Oh, no worries. I mean, that's the world we're living in now. This is going nowhere.
Yeah, it went completely out. I never had that happen before, so that was really a amazing little deal there. But we're here, and that's all that matters. Um,
You asked me what obstacles I had faced.
yes.
Um, too many to count. I mean, initially, so the whole thought process was I wanted to go over here and service lower income areas. There are a lot of blue collar people out here, and my parents were blue collar. They can't afford $500 a test per person,
Mm-hmm.
but these people don't get sick. Sure, they do. Um, I was telling my wife the other day because she didn't know, but listen, I gave away a lot of tests. If you came to me and you were sick, and I could look at you and tell you were sick, and you and your wife were both sick, and you didn't have the money,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'll give you 2 for 1. I'll do whatever I got to do to meet that need, and it was fine. Um, but initially, we only could take cash paying individuals. I didn't know how to bill an insurance, how to get certified, who got control. I mean, listen, it came close to shutting down. It really did. It came real close to shutting down at one point in time. But there's a will, there's a way. You keep pushing forward. And,
Yes.
uh, believe that you're going to figure it out, and you're going to figure it out. Keep working, and we did, and it ended up being, like I said, an overwhelming success. Um, I don't. It'd be hard for me to name all the. I mean, I gave you a lot right there, but I had to figure out what it takes to own and operate a medical lab. Not to mention the ownership. We had partners at first, me and my wife. So I'm a
Okay.
microbiologist, right? Ph.D.
Mm-hmm.
microbiologist and immunologist. So anytime you go to a laboratory, like you go to your hospital right now, most times people go to the hospital because they're infected with something.
Mm-hmm.
You got a foot infection, you got Ebola, you got COVID, they're infections. That's where the immune system comes into place. What are these things I'm mentioning? They're microbes. That's where our microbiology and immunology kind of fits. You get infected with something, I figure out what it's doing to you and what it is. Um, that's my role. Anything in that laboratory, as far as an assay, a test that needs to be run, chances are, I mean, blood, feces, urine, that's kind of my ballpark.
Okay.
My wife's a nurse, 10 years plus. If I needed someone to give a vaccine or if I needed to communicate effectively clinically with a physician, my wife's got that down. She's a cardiac nurse for the last decade plus. The other couple didn't have a lot of um, I'm just gonna put it out there. This is nothing personal, just all business. We weren't equally yoked in this. Me and my wife
Mm-hmm.
were uniquely positioned for this. I mean, we were recently at a comedy show here a few weeks ago in Dallas, and right as the guy comes on, somebody starts having a major medical event in the audience, and I'm sitting here with my wife, and we got other couples with us, and I don't want to leave this guy. I've been seeing this guy since BET Comic View. I didn't want to leave, but I see this man they're dragging out, and he's in bad shape. He can no longer walk. He's overweight. He's having issues. I look at my wife like, look, I know you know what you're doing. We need to go over and help. So we did. Um, that's kind of our job. She might be having PC issues. Sounds like. Give Miss Tiger just a few more moments. Um, while she's gone, I'm not sure if I'm still broadcasting live or not, but I'll go ahead and continue answering the question for the sake of the show. What obstacles did I face? Um, they were too numerous to count. But I will say this: for all of the budding entrepreneurs out there, folks that believe it, um, if you're doing something, you have to make the decision that you're going to do it. And I mean do it until completion. I'm gonna commit to this thing until the money runs out. I'm gonna I'm gonna commit to when I don't have. Give me 1 second here. I'm getting a call from the Tigers. All right, everyone. I just talked to Cheryl. She told me she's having some technical difficulties, and she's asked if I could continue speaking. She had some questions for me that she just sent me over. So I'll go ahead and just read these, and uh, I'll keep going with the interview as if she was here. Um, the question I was answering right now is the obstacles. I would just say this again. Let me continue. To all the entrepreneurs out there, people who think they want to be entrepreneurs, listen. Years ago, I saw this video, man, Steve Harvey did. I'm not sure, hopefully, the audience is familiar with Steve Harvey, but he talked about how you have to jump. He talked about entrepreneurship being like you jumping off a ledge. And eventually, when you jump off that ledge, your wings will open up and you will soar like the eagles. But your wings aren't going to open up right away. You're going to fall down that cliff. You're going to hit some bumps. You're going to get scratched up. You're going to have some bad days. You're going to be transformed. And that's what it's meant to do. I would just say for this here obstacles, I don't even think about those obstacles anymore. Um, were they major? Yes, they were major. Did we almost get shut down? Yeah, we almost got shut down. Did we get shut down? No. Did we keep going? Yeah, we did. Um, that's the best thing that I can say. You have to have faith in yourself and be determined to what you're doing. I wasn't making sandwiches. If somebody tried to shut me down, I got a sandwich shop, yeah, okay, maybe I get shut down. I mean, everybody can find a sandwich, but I actually believed in what I was doing. I was trying to help my community. I believed in. I'm a doctor again. Me and my wife are both in healthcare. It's obviously something that's important to us. So that was enough to power us through. And now that I'm on this side of the bridge versus the non-entrepreneur side, now I'm on the successful side. I have met a lot of other successful entrepreneurs, and my story sounds a lot like theirs. I have gone through every emotion with this thing. I have been happy. I have been sad. I have been, I'm not a crying guy, but I've been sad. I've been happy. I've been elated. I've been all of it. I've been angry. Every emotion with this thing. The one distinguishing quality between us that led to our success is that we did not quit. So anybody like Nipsey said, anybody that's gone through this, gonna go through this, or if you're gonna go down this road, don't quit. Just keep moving. Okay. Um, how difficult was it? How difficult, if any, was it for you to obtain funding? That's a good question. To be totally honest with you, um, we did get funded. We ended up getting an SBA loan. We were all minorities. I'm not sure if that helped or not. Um, One thing I definitely would recommend is get an attorney. If you don't know somebody, call somebody that you know, a business attorney, and just trust me, it's not as expensive as you think it's going to be, and their help is going to be invaluable. Okay, to make sure all their I's are dotted and T's are crossed. We end up getting funding. Um, some banks we went to, even some of the smaller banks, usually a smaller bank's easier to get through versus a larger bank. Um, I think we ended up going with Wells Fargo. Didn't like them too much for whatever reason. Just you know, me personally, I wasn't crazy about them. Some of the smaller banks. Now keep this in mind. This is back in 2020. The COVID outbreak is everywhere. Some banks told us they didn't think it was a good investment. I paid back that loan in less than a year. Okay. But just kind of give you an idea, there were definitely some places we went to that you don't think a COVID testing lab is a good idea. Every corner you go on, they're a mile long. So you can make of that what you want to make of it. Okay, we did get funding. My whole point is if you're really interested in moving forward, you're not going to quit. If I got to go through 10 banks, I go through 10 banks. I'm gonna get what I need. I'm gonna get what I'm going after. What are the functions of your laboratory? So for our previous laboratory, all we did was everything COVID. We ran vaccination clinics at a lot of the major churches here and religious organizations here in the Metroplex. Mega churches, mosques. We went to. Um, uh, we did a lot of vaccines for private businesses. Okay, anybody that had a large grouping of people that were looking for a COVID solution, we offered it. Okay, so we did rapid testing, we did PCR testing, we did, again, we did the vaccinations. Also tested you not only for COVID, but for other respiratory things, RSV, flu. Um, those are the main things. Now, my new laboratory here, just signed the lease today, Stat Labs is what I'm calling it. I'm actually going to be located in DeSoto, Texas, right off 67. Matter of fact, there's a hospital there, Methodist Charleston. I'm right across the street. Um, the new laboratory, I'm going to do things. I really want to aim for the bread and butter. Okay, I want to be able to do your hematology work, which means any type of testing from a blood draw. Okay, so let's say you're doing, if I have someone here like phlebotomist or my wife take your blood, I can test for your CMPs, your metabolic panels, your A1Cs. Are you diabetic? I can do your cholesterol, panel there, or you have a lot of fat in your blood. Um, I'll also be able to probably test for your STDs. I'm still looking at the testing matrix. But from blood, I think there are going to be some tests for STDs as well. Mainly, we're going to start doing your drug testing and your urinalysis. Okay, so think of this way: every time you go get a new job, they may want to do a drug screen. Um, that's the urinalysis. Sometimes they want blood. I'll be able to do that work for you. You want to go get life insurance? Okay, they're going to want a full run up. They're probably going to have you urinate and take a blood draw. I'll be able to do that testing as well. Department of Transportation is really where we think our bread and butter is going to be here in the short term. But we're going to be doing all these things. So hematology, drug testing, um, urinalysis testing as well, and then I'm going to go from there. Uh, Previously, I had a whole molecular setup. I'll probably bring that same molecular setup with me here. I'm just trying to find the market for it right now. So that's what my main function of the laboratory, the new lab. And again, I'm calling it Stat Laboratories or Stat Labs. This is a logo here that I think I'm settling. I'm starting to like a lot. So this is probably what's going to be on the billboard out front and on the side of the building. How does owning and operating a successful business coexist with being active, loving, and caring spouses and parents? How does owning and operating a business coexist with being active, loving, and caring parents or spouses and parents? Well, that's a great question. Uh, when I say this thing has changed everything, uh, the initial laboratory and the success that it had changed everything. Um, it really showed me how do I articulate this? Um, Listen, if you there's a way that people live out here that if you're not in that upper class, you'll never see it. Okay. Um, this has shown me. This has led to me being shown a lot of things that I might otherwise not have been shown. Um, as far as me and my wife are concerned, it changed everything. Um, before this, so me and my wife have been married now for 14 years. Before this kicked off, um, we were just W-2 employees. She works as a nurse. I'm a sales rep. And we were living good. Like Cheryl said, they're very good at making you feel comfortable. But I'm not making the type of progress that I'm hoping to make or that I'm looking to make. I don't care how good the year was. It's it's a little bit better. It's not a lot better, which is what I'm looking for. I'm trying to leave things to my children eventually. Um, it has caused us to have to refocus on our communication. Um, okay, listen, we both realize now, like, wow, our skill sets applied to the open market are worth a lot more than they were just applied to the private market, being in corporate America. Um, but in order for us to pull this off, we have to communicate. And I mean, we have to work on over communicating. I don't want to sit here and play off like I'm the big bad doctor and she's a small nurse. No, it's not that way. I need her help. Okay, and in order for me to get her help, and she needs my help, we have to communicate. Um, if I sit here and tell you this is the logo I have, and you're the one dealing with the individual, okay, sign it off. I mean, every day our communication has gotten a lot more. The quantity has increased, and the level that we're communicating has gotten better. We're talking on a much deeper level now. But we're seeing the growth, and we're both excited about it, and we see that this is worthwhile. This is the stuff dreams are made of. So we're going for it. She's fully on board, and I'm fully on board. So um, that has changed everything, and I'm digging it. I'm really digging it. You know, I quit my job. She quit her job. We want to focus on this full time. This is what we're good at. Like I said, we were in a comedy show a few weeks ago. Somebody starts having a a cardiac event. Look, as much as I want to see this comedian, as much as I want to see this guy, I really wanted to see him. Um, I got to put him on hold, and we got to get over here and we got to see what we can do to help this person out. That is the role, that's the calling that I feel God has placed in our lives. You don't see a microbiologist and a cardiac nurse combo every day. You don't see that. As far as our kids are concerned, at the beginning of this interview, Cheryl made a comment about generational curses, or she called it pathology. Both terms are correct. It depends on which angle you're speaking from. Um, I love it because my kids have seen the sacrifices for the lab. That's what they call it, the lab. Y'all are going to the lab? Yeah, we got to go to the lab. You know, um, go to the baseball game Saturday morning. Boom, shoot to the lab. They've seen it, but at the same time, they've also seen the growth. They've seen the sacrifice and they've seen the growth. And they're putting, my kids are starting to get old enough now where they're putting it together. Um, hey, Cheryl, welcome back.
Hey, they finally let me back in.
Um, I was on this last question that you sent over. How does owning and operating a successful business coexist with being active, loving, and caring spouses? So I started off talking about how it changed the relationship between me and my spouse. The communication now, we really have to work on over communicating because as we have both worked this thing, we've seen the growth, we've seen the effect that it's had on our family and our children. We both become more dedicated to it. And what we've realized, our conversations have become more deeper and the quantity of conversations have increased. Now we're actually we work on over communicating.
Oh, that's
Um,
beautiful.
uh, I don't want to act like I'm a big bad doctor and she's a small nurse. That's not what I'm playing over here. I need her help. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my role to play. She's got her role to play, and we're stronger together. So, in order for us to be together, we got to communicate, that way. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's still a work in progress, but it's something we both identified with. And I think we're getting better at doing it. She's great. And I can't wait to interview her. As
Oh, I
far
can't either.
oh, she's sharp. She's my best side. She's my best side. Um, and so now I'm talking about the effect that it's had on my kids. And earlier in this conversation, you made a comment about the pathology or what I would call a generational curse.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I love it. My kids have seen the lab. They've seen the sacrifice that me and my wife have done, have put forth into the laboratory. The time that we've dedicated to the lab. There's been a lot of times where you know what? You go over here and you run the vaccine clinic. I'll hang out with the kids for the day and I'll take them to CC's. You know, they've seen it. They're old enough now to start putting it together, but they've also seen some of the growth that we've had professionally and personally from it. So right now, all I can see is your avatar if you're still talking. Um, but that being said, um, I believe that's probably when it's all said and done. As much as I think God has blessed me, I think the effect that this has had on my children is going to be the biggest outcome out of all of this. Um, you know, I've involved them from day one.
And that's
I,
what it's about, right?
yeah, that's 100%, a
That's
hundred
what it's
percent.
about.
I don't teach my kids to get jobs. I teach them to open up companies.
See, that's what I was talking about. Earlier in the interview, we need more people with your mindset, and we need you doing more speaking. In a public forum. I believe a lot of us really would like to do that, but because of the training, the animal husbandry, docility training, we are afraid to step out on the gifts. And, a lot of people say they read the word and they believe in it, but they choose to selectively believe in things that they're told to believe in. But, Proverbs says that your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. So if you operate in your gift, I don't know the when, the what, the why, the how, the where, but I do know that if you operate in your gift, that it will make room for you and others will see because we are people that mimic one another, you know. That's what we do.
Well, I
You're
would just
in the
say that
picture
I think
now.
this form that you've created here is powerful. Um, you know, honestly, this is the first time I've ever been interviewed. Now, out here in Coffin County where I live, there have been a few individuals here because initially, you know, I started testing businesses out here in Coffin County too.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of black-owned businesses I knew and became aware of me, and they would just call me in to test their entire facilities. Um, so there, you know, I've got this past Juneteenth, I got pulled in to kind of speak and talk more about the COVID vaccine, what it is, what it isn't, my thoughts on it, whatnot. But there aren't a lot of venues out here for people like me to speak.
Yes.
You know? And right now, you know, this blessing, I feel like I have so much to say. You know, every professional I talk to now, I'm preaching entrepreneurship. Give it a shot. Try it. You know,
Try it.
you'd be amazed at what your education. I know a lot of doctors, and it's like, listen, you don't realize what you're worth on the open market. Just figure out how to apply yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
think that's what we need to learn. A lot of us don't know our worth, and
right.
and that's a part too of the training. And we bring a lot to the table, and then we think if we ask for this, we're asking for too much. But see, they study us. We're the fifth largest economy in the world. The Asiatic spending power I'm talking about, and they study us, and we tend to like to overspend. We have to go for the most expensive of whatever it is, and we used to do quality when we were a people that came together off of what we call slavery and Jim Crow. We had quality over quantity. But now we don't care anything about anything but how much does it cost and how does it make me look in front of somebody else. And that is a killer for us when we could really be working together and teaching one another. Whatever it is you're lacking, I may know a little bit about. Let me just see what I know, what you know, and let us all come together and let's all know together. But for us as a people, it doesn't work that way. It's like if you know something that I don't know, you're going to do your best not to let me know it. And that's unfortunate because all of the people around us, one of the things that they have in common is coming together as a unit because there's strength in numbers and working against us. Um, we're at the 8 o'clock, 8:02 mark, You were fantastic to carry my show. I greatly appreciate it. I don't know what happened with the system. I've never had that problem, but it kicked me out completely twice and wouldn't let me back in. But look at the power of my ancestors and yours, that it would not allow us to go off without us coming back together and without me giving you the proper thank you for being here and so graciously accepting the invitation to speak before the people. I didn't get to acknowledge everybody, and I told you guys I was wanting to give Dr. Love the time, so I want to just shout out to Shay Vita and Pennywise Whitfield. I think I did get to speak to you at the beginning. Miss Thompson, thank you for being here. Meaty, hi, Meaty Riley. Chase, real Chase Bank, thank you guys for coming, always showing up. BMK21, thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate you. Laura, all smiles. I love it, and I love the way you guys communicate with the audience. Maria, what would I do without you guys? Phyllis, I greatly appreciate you all standing in the gap. Lazy Bone, being right here. Everybody, please, if you would hit the like button, and if you would go leave a comment. Arabia, I'm so glad to see you. Glad you made it. And Allison, glad to see you. On that note, we're going to be inviting you back, Doc, and I'll be getting with you, and we will um, speak on when your wife wants to do her interview. We can start out in October. Like I said, I'd like to do her separately, and then I'd like to do you guys together. Um, I think that it would really be awesome to see two doctors that look like us communicating from the same household as one, not only in the lab, but in the home. Those things mean something. We don't get to see that on television. Most of our ideas of family and love came from visions of somebody else on a television. But it is really something when you can actually see and know somebody that's your age, her age, and my age being 63, that really means something to me. And so for that, I'm truly grateful. Do you have any information that you want to give anybody before we say good night?
I would just say that first off, thanks for giving me the opportunity to interview me today. I do appreciate it more than you know. Um, to anyone here living in the South Dallas area, Stat Labs, that is the name that we were doing business under. I'm hoping in about 60 days, we should be up and running. So right now, just getting everything set up. Um, next time we speak, I'll be able to share our social media as well as our web page with you. And this last note, again, I'm telling everyone I know, anybody out here that's thinking about taking an entrepreneurial path, I know it looks scary. Hold the line and just walk forward. It does say in Proverbs that a man who is diligent in his work will be presented amongst kings, and it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, and yeah, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak.
You're so very welcome. Hello, Sim said so. Well, anybody catch the playback? I got knocked off, but it seems like it kept going, so I think everything should be okay. Dr. Love is truly Dr. Love. He kept the show going and he held it down. So we can't ask for it better than to have a doctor in the house. So, Dr. Love, I thank you very much. We will be coming back together and we will get a date to come back. And do know that we will be more than happy to put the word out about your grand opening and everything to get
Oh,
the
that's
word
awesome.
out throughout the United States. Hopefully, you will inspire some other doctors to do what you're doing in their community. So,
It's needed.
hopefully, that'll work. Okay, on that note, everybody, I want to say I've enjoyed you on this exclusive Wednesday. Thank you all for giving me your time today and listening to Dr. Love. And I want to say that I am getting ready to lead the Tigers again. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.
This video was made for education and entertainment purposes only. There's no malice or ill intent from the content creator. So please like, share, and subscribe, and have a great evening. Good night.